How do you teach people things? Right? That's a really vague question, but I've narrowed this down to three steps, three things to keep in mind, three things to do, whether you're in the classroom or with your own children or in any sort of teaching environment. How do you teach people things? What should you keep in mind? And really, it comes down to encouragement. How do you encourage the people who you're teaching? We're going to talk about that today. Let's go. Hey there, teachers. Jesse here from Sweet Academy, and I want to help you in the classroom with your kids with any sort of teaching responsibility that you have to do. So the big question that I'm attempting to tackle today is a very vague question, but I think I've narrowed down this vague question into three steps, three reminders that as you're teaching somebody something, if you keep these in mind, you will be an infinitely more effective teacher. And by the way, you'll also decrease your stress, you'll decrease your anger and frustration at times, and you'll increase your level of enjoyment of teaching or of interacting with people. But first, if you're not familiar with me or you don't know me, this is our first time seeing each other. I'm Jesse, and I've been a teacher professionally for coming up 14 years now. Before that, teaching and instructing martial arts, coaching martial arts, and teaching in youth groups and things like that. Pretty much my entire adult life has been in some sort of teaching capacities. And now as a parent, I'm a parent of two, and teaching is really my life, right? It's who I am. And I have found some tricks of the trade throughout my experience. How can you not after all that time? And I'd like to share those with you. I have three things for you to keep in mind as you're interacting with your kids, with your classes, with your youth group, with your teams, with any sort of roles that you're in a teaching position, with new employees, and with coworkers, really anybody that you're showing something with. Three things, that's easy for you to say, three things to keep in mind as you're showing them something, right? So the first thing is to encourage them, right? Encourage them. Encourage the person who you're teaching or the people who you're teaching. Now, we've all heard this before. We all know this. What does that mean? Encouraging them means something different to everybody, really. It can, right? It cannot, right? It's not that vague. I mean, but it looks like different things to different people. So what does encouraging look like, right? And to me, encouraging means simply to build up, to build up. And I don't mean like this patronizing, you can do it, you're the best, and never saying a bad word, never criticizing anything, never giving any negative feedback. If you know me, and if you're my student, you know that I do give negative feedback, but I give it in a way to be helpful. So if you give negative feedback, all of your feedback should be to build up, it should be to empower, and it should be to improve. That's what your feedback is. And we don't really encourage people by insulting and knocking them down, right? Right? I mean, put yourself in the learner's position, which I hope you are a learner of something, right? Whether you're learning and improving an instrument, whether you're learning and improving a skill like the Rubik's Cube, for example, or maybe how to juggle, right? Maybe you're improving a language. Maybe you're improving, cooking, anything, right? Maybe you're trying to lose weight for the summer, get that beach body out, right? Whatever it is you're trying to improve, what speaks to you when you learn? Now, a lot of people, when they teach, when they give feedback, I see this a lot with parents. I see how a lot of parents interact with their kids, and I see it a lot with other teachers as well. Things like, Imagine you're losing weight or you're trying to go on a diet. I mean, what would work better? A, hey fatty, have another cupcake. But what if you're losing weight and somebody says, you're looking good. Are you working out more? That encourages you to put down that cupcake and go out and wake up early and go exercising the next day. Trust me, it's worked. Oh, look, you're working out again. I can see it. Well, thanks. I have been. You know? Or don't screw this up again. Remember how you messed up yesterday? Anything like this, right? It may come from good intentions. It may come from trying to encourage, but the result in the end, the truth is that doesn't encourage people. Maybe some people, most people it doesn't. I would venture to say. But this is how, we've been talked to a lot. This is what we know there, and we think in our minds. I know, trust me, because I've been a younger teacher and I've done things like this. I remember. And you think, if somebody says the wrong answer, really? That's your answer? I saw one of my co-teachers doing this, criticizing a kid for answering a question wrong. What's the past of go? Goad? Goad? Really? That's what you think it? No, come on. That is just putting shame on them, and they don't want to learn whatever it is you're teaching ever again. That's the ultimate result of that form, right? So what's the opposite of that? What's encouraging? Well, if we do option A, we're looking at the past. Remember yesterday how you burnt the dinner? Don't screw this up again. You're going to screw it up. I know it. You're going to screw it up. Like, that looks at the past. That looks at past errors. And by looking at the past, you'll never move forward, right? You see someone with a Rubik's Cube. Oh, put that thing down. What are you doing? That kind of attitude. Of course, some of that probably comes from a good place, right? But it doesn't lead to good results. So what can we do then? Well, look to the future. Look ahead. You're still at it. Look at the positive. You're still at it. Good for you. Keep it up. Maybe add some specific comments. That sounds like Three Little Birds. As a guitar learner, when people can start to recognize something that I'm playing that I hope sounds like a song, and they recognize the song, that's so encouraging, right? Same thing with language, same thing with anything you teach. Be encouraging, find the positives, because if we feel positive about ourselves, it will encourage us to keep going on. But that being said, if they do need some criticism, if you have specific advice, specific comments to make, there's nothing wrong with making correction. In fact, that's what we should be doing. The number 2 thing to keep in mind, and something that you can do the very next time you interact with somebody, that's celebrate the small victories. Celebrate the small victories, the little things that they do right. Make it a big deal. Now, that's not to say be patronizing, and if they do something little, say, oh my God, you're so amazing, and have this fake. People can smell fake, right? Don't have this fake energy that is patronizing, right? Because if people feel that you're being fake, then that kind of tends to have the same results as being critical, right? So, but instead, someone does something new for the first time. This happened the other day with my son, right? He was playing with a toy, or he was playing with something, and then he was finished with it. Instead of throwing it on the ground, he walked over and handed it to me. And I said, Dante, that's amazing. Great job. Now, he's 1.5, so like the bigger gestures, the better, right? But that was just such a small victory that I celebrated. And that's what we can do in the classroom. When a student, they give a correct answer, Maybe you didn't think that they were going to give this correct answer, or they were going to score this or get this answer correctly. It doesn't have to be an entire exam, just one answer. If somebody says it correctly or says one sentence correctly or whatever subject you're teaching, well done. Self high five, something like that. Have your own little things that you do. That's what I'm talking about. I do that a lot too, right? So celebrate the small victories. Number 2, celebrate the small victories. Do this the very next time you interact with anyone. That means like a relationship. That means like personal friendships or relationships in your life. That means in a class. That means in a sport, whatever. Celebrate the small victories, but don't cross over into patronizing that person. And number 3, I have this just as a general overarching theme, and this is the theme for my life. What is probably one of the most important words there are, and that's respect. Show them respect. Show respect to your students as learners. Show them respect as people. And, a way we don't show respect is cutting people down, knocking people down, insulting them, criticizing them as people, criticizing their results if they've given good effort. We don't want to do things like that. That's disrespectful. If you're a teacher, you've probably given the respect speech plenty to your students. But let's not forget that respect is a two-way street. And us as teachers, as coaches, as people in leadership, we need to show the respect first. And sometimes that respect has to be shown even when it's not received to a certain extent, because we have to show the example. That's difficult to do, especially if you're teaching teenagers, right? That's difficult to do and damn near impossible at times. And sometimes we lose it. Sometimes we lose control. But I'm always a fan of apologizing when I'm wrong. That shows respect. And I'm always a fan of making others give sincere apologies when they're wrong. Not making, encouraging. And just if you demonstrate respect, respect will be given, eventually. If it's not, then handle that as you see fit. So overall, encourage to do the right thing. Number 2, celebrate the small victories because they are victories. And number 3, be respectful, show respect. And this is essentially what teaching is. And if you practice this, you don't have to wait for the classroom. If you practice this in your own life, it will become a lifestyle. And do it with yourself too. Sometimes we can get critical of ourselves, right? Oh, Jesse, you're so lazy. Look in the mirror. I can't believe you overslept again and you didn't get up and go work out. Sometimes there's a place for that. We know ourselves. But if that doesn't work, then try another approach with yourself or with your students and see where that gets you. All right. If you like this video and you like these ideas, then click that subscribe button and the bell. And by the way, I always forget to tell you to hit that thumbs up button, and because that would help a lot too. Even leave me a comment and tell me what you're working on with yourself or your students, and I'd love to hear about that. Keep teaching and keep learning. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.